It is just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Dr. Brady Smith, a dentist who graduated from the University of Pacific in 2009 in the top 7/8 of his class. Right out of school, he purchased a Comfort Dental franchise in Pueblo, Colorado. He now owns and operates two successful Comfort Dental franchises in Vancouver, Washington that he started from scratch in 2014 and 2016. Both practices grew quickly and now produce $1.8 to $2 million a piece annually. In 2019, Dr. Smith created the Drilled Podcast Network, a nonprofit podcast that delivers life-changing dental transformations to some pretty amazing people who need a helping hand. The podcast discusses dental topics in a way for non-dentists to understand and appreciate, and gives away $500 of free dental work every weekly episode to a listener. Brady is a father of 4 and a husband of 1. In his professional life, he is a dentist. As such, he archives of horrific stories that will haunt your dreams. You don't even know. Seriously, you don't. He was raised in Spokane, Washington, which is known as one of hundreds of cities claiming to be the meth capital of the U.S. He is an active and practicing member of the Church of Jesus of Latter-day Saints, thus the reason for specifying he only has one wife. He wants to make that clear. He attended BYU, Idaho, where he met his one singular and only wife. He plays guitar in a local cover band called The Playlist. They are not completely terrible. Man, thanks so much for coming on the show. How are you doing today?
I mean, with a bio and intro like that, I'm on cloud 9, Dr. Howard. This is fantastic. This is so much fun to be with you today.
Oh man, I love your energy. I love everything you're doing, and we both have so many things in common. We're both dentists. We both are friends, and Rick Kirshner. An amazing man. But I wanted to start off with how does giving away dentistry grow your practice? I would think it would grow your overhead and steal all your time and take all your supplies. How do you give it away to success?
That is a great question, and I'm excited to answer that. So I'll use this as an example. Our very first giveaway that we did for Drilled Podcast was a woman named Bobby. And you can go to YouTube and you can watch her transformation. We have a little video on our YouTube channel, Drilled Podcast YouTube channel, and you can watch her transformation.
The retail value of the work we did probably is going to be into the $25,000 to $30,000 range. When I met her for the first time, she has what we call a guarded smile, which is a trained thing. People can smile and talk without showing their teeth. And you can tell, a dentist can tell immediately when someone has a guarded smile.
So I would look down at the floor, or I'd go like this when I laughed. That became a habit. Now I'm tearing up, but yeah, now it's like back to me again. People make assumptions. They think you're a crackhead or whatever, whatever. People want to think you're homeless, but it really affects your self-confidence a lot. I was really scared because I'm just really fearful of the dentist to begin with, because of things that have happened to me in my past with dentists, so I was really afraid. Just the way Brady and his staff just welcome you. I mean, no one shames you, no one has shamed me at all. I'd love to thank Brady and everyone, all the staff, all the girls, everyone. I can't thank you enough. It's just because it's just changed my life. And I never would have been able to do this or afford this. And so I can't thank you enough.
Doing free work for people, it seems like a sacrifice. But there's a lot of benefits that come with doing this kind of work. It has allowed me to enjoy my job and enjoy what I do and take a lot of pride in the work that we do and the way that we help people out. And it compels me to use my skills and resources to help people out. You know, there's only like two things I feel like I'm really good at, and one is dentistry, and then I also shred on the guitar. So those are the two things I share with people is my dentistry, and then I like to play guitar as well. I believe that giving this kind of work back to people is always going to pay out to me as well. I get referrals from people now. I get so many people who hear about what I've done and want to be my patient and come in and see me, and they immediately have trust in me. They've never met me before, but they immediately have trust because they've seen what I've done for other people. When you have the ability to help others out, you ought to do that. And then also just the flooding of rewards that come from doing this kind of work.
Unbelievable. But anyway, I watched that. I mean, man, are you already canonized a Catholic saint in Rome from just this case?
My application is in, and it's under review, and I think they'll be asking you for a recommendation.
Well, that's why 69 is my favorite number. You know why? Because
Why is
that's
that?
how old Mother Teresa was when she got her Nobel Prize, and I actually visited her birthplace. But anyway, how do you give it away?
How do you make money?
How do you make money giving it away for free? This couldn't have been Rick Kirshner's idea. Lean and mean overhead.
Well, listen, Rick Kushner is, he laid the groundwork. And one of the things I really loved about Comfort Dental when I joined was the amount of charity they do. They do every Christmas Eve day, we do something called Care Day within Comfort Dental, where we open our practices up for free dental work for the community, which I think is awesome and fantastic. And that's actually where I started first seeing, every Care Day we ever did, every single time, and I've been doing it for 10 years, but without fail, 100% guaranteed, one of the free patients always converts to a patient for life. Always. Every time. They come in, we do a free dental work, and then they come in the next week, and now they're paying customers. And with Bobby, once I did Bobby's work, you do free dental work, and it's the best form of word of mouth advertising that exists. These people go to church and talk about you. They talk about you in the grocery store. They talk about you to your friends and family. They do not stop singing your praises. And with Bobby, I started to get so many referrals that would mention her name, and from her daughter. Her daughter nominated her. These giveaways are done via a nomination process. So I don't allow people to nominate themselves. So her daughter nominated her. But between her daughter and Bobby, I lost tally at about $9,000 of treatment that I've been able to do from referrals that come directly to them that I would have never gotten otherwise. Now, that's not the reason we do it, but it is a byproduct that I believe is unavoidable. That you start doing this kind of dental work for people, even on a smaller scale, these people become your patients for life. They're coming to you when they have a dental problem. If they hear about someone who has a dental problem, they're recommending you. You are top of their list when talking about where to go for dentistry.
Now, is Drilled Podcast, is that one word or two?
It's two words. It's two words.
Okay.
Unless you're on Instagram, then I jumbled it all together. So it's, yeah, but it's two words.
You put that podcast up on for free on iTunes and all that. You ought to upload that on Dentaltown, and then
Sure.
And then make a when your YouTube video, you should go under humanitarian dentistry, and then when you make a post, it has when you go to the YouTube channel, you can hit share and there's a link.
Yeah.
But the next button over is embed, and it's the code. And then when you go to Dentaltown and make a post, there's a YouTube icon. You drop the embed in there. And I wish you would do that because dentists need to see that. I mean, that's just a miraculous transformation. And
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm slow to the social networking. I actually didn't really do a whole lot of social networking until I created Drilled Podcast. So I'm actually pretty new to getting around and navigating the crazy world of social networking that we live in.
And what do you make of it? Do you think
Oh,
I mean, sometimes, I mean, I even had this question with a friend the other night. I can't tell if the internet, when it came out, all information available, you thought it would make everyone smarter, but it seems to be making a lot of confused people, not, actually worse. What do you think of all this social media in your life?
yeah, it's a two-edged sword. I mean, it's really easy to become involved in an unhealthy way, just as far as like time, time, the value of someone's time. I think there's some value in social media. If you're advertising for your business, it's free for the most part. And it's a good way for me, for what I want to do is I want the ideas of Drill Podcast to become contagious. And I want to advertise the benefits of being charitable and offering service to people using your skills and your talents. So social media for me, for that reason, is great because I get a lot of messages from people and find out who needs help and where they need help and try to broker the relationship between people who need help and people who are willing to help.
And so you're giving away $500 in free dental work every single week to a local listener in Portland?
You got it. Yeah.
Wow. Now, did the news media, did their social media pick up on this when you tweeted out? Do you also put on the Twitter links to all the local Portland news stations and stuff like that?
Not Twitter links. I called up a few news organizations. I've been on a few news programs locally here to advertise what I'm doing, and it's certainly super helpful to get that kind of exposure. Yeah.
So my gosh, I would on every link. I mean, you go. You're a suburb of Portland, Oregon.
Yeah. So Portland, Oregon, is just right across the Columbia River, and that's 10 minutes away. And I'm in Washington State, in Vancouver, Washington, and a little town called just 6 miles east of Vancouver called Camas. But yeah, Portland area is easy to navigate to and from.
So did you? Are you too young to remember Mount St. Helens?
It was a year before I was born.
Oh my gosh!
Mount St. Helens erupted. May of 1980. I'm April of 81.
And my mom's oldest brother, Chick, lived there and sent me a little vase of the ashes. And oh my gosh, that was a crazy event.
Well, my folks lived in Olympia, Washington when it happened, and so they got about 2 inches of ash, like snow. It was like snow, but it was ash instead. They got like 2 inches of ash all over.
So, what year did you graduate? 2009. And
yes.
So let's talk about your journey. You graduate 2009, and then you open up your own dental office, scratch practice with Comfort Dental. How long did it take before graduation, and you're starting a scratch practice?
So my first practice wasn't a scratch practice. My first practice was in Pueblo, Colorado. And it was a Comfort Dental franchise, and it was already a pretty well-oiled machine, I would say. And I came into an amazing group of doctors who were mentors for me, which is one of the major benefits of Comfort Dental, is just going into a practice where I have mentorship and consulting ability and people to look over my shoulder and looking over other people's shoulder. So I got a baptism by fire because I did more production in one day than I think in 3 months in dental school. And for me, it was liberating. I always felt kind of hindered in dental school. Like I never wanted to get that filling in those line angles of those your interproximal boxes double checked and triple checked. So when I came out of dental school, and I kind of just I was ready to hit the runway, and did very well right from the beginning. And then I had an opportunity in 2014 to sell that franchise and open Scratch Starts in Vancouver, Washington. And I'm super partial to the Pacific Northwest and love it here. And so the opportunity to come to Washington was a huge draw.
So what? It just seems like Rick Kirschner and I, when we got out of school back in the day, you just got out of school. It took me. I graduated May 11. I had my own office open from scratch September 21. It seems like today people just want to think about it, go from job to job. They don't seem happy at it, and there's about a 5-year gap between graduation day and finally it seems like they only open up their own office because they hit rock bottom. They're like, I'm so sick of working for someone else. I'm finally just gonna do it myself.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, I mean, like, I feel the advantage of coming into a comfort dental practice for me. I think I shaved that 5 years off my learning curve. I just dentistry is designed to be, kind of a solo doc or like multiple doctor practice and having partners and being your own boss and calling the shots and designing your own systems and kind of laying the foundation for your own success. And I agree with you. I come across a lot of associates who don't pull the trigger on very, very good opportunities, maybe because of fear. It's a lot of money to buy into things, and they want to sit and wait for whatever reason they have. But that was not my mentality.
And why do you think that is? I mean, I've been joking for 30 years on the lecture circuit that if you hire an associate and daddy paid for dental school and he's single, he's looking at that clock at 5 o'clock, he's trying to get out early and he wants to go hit the bars. But I said, my dad always told me that if you see 3 hungry coyotes walking down a dirt road, something's going to die. And I always said, man, if you get an associate, get one that's married, stay home wife, at least, 2 or 3 kids, and that guy will be there early, work through lunch, stay late. And the joke around here in Phoenix says, make sure your associate is LDS, because they're not working for themselves; they're working for a family. And
Sure.
So where do you think that doesn't want? Do you think that's the sole reason why? I have 4 kids. How many you say you have?
4.
4. So we each have 4 kids. So we're both equally insane. Do you think that's where a lot of the drive and passion comes from? Because we got little birds in a nest that need a worm dropped in their mouth.
Oh, you might be onto something with that. I don't know that I have the answer 100% on why this newer generation is kind of a little slower to pull the trigger on stuff. I don't know that I have. I wish I had an answer for that. I just know my personal experience is we lay out opportunities that are phenomenal, and we get people passing, and I don't understand it.
Okay, so, Rick Kirschner is genius in so many ways. He was one of the first mentors I latched onto in '87 with his Mean and Lean. He's extremely vocal and opinionated on his views, which I think hurts the delivery of his message to some because they just don't want to hear it. But he's so right in the fact that associates don't have any skin in the game. So why should I do this molar endo when I can just refer to an endodontist? Why should I try to pull this wisdom tooth when I can just send it to an oral surgeon? You see it at seminars. The owner dentist is there taking notes, and his associate next to him is on Snapchat. But the thing I love most about Rick, besides that him and his wife Cindy are so adorable, what I like most about him is he's the opposite of the first taste that dentistry put in my mouth when I went to this big old fancy seminar, and this guy starts laying out the 4 types of patients, A, B, C, D, and F, and he describes it. And when he gets to the C, D, and F, I realized, well, that was my whole pedigree. And this guy was saying, you don't want people like that. And Rick Kirschner is like, poor people need a dentist, and McDonald's can make money selling a hamburger to a poor person. How come too many dentists think they can only have a steakhouse in Beverly Hills? So I don't want to put any words in your mouth, but to some, a quarter of our listeners are still in dental school. The rest of them are all under 30. I only get like 1 email a month from someone who says they're as old as me, and I believe them because they have an AOL email, so I know. I assume they also have diabetes and restless leg syndrome. But to the newbie, they're in dental school. They've never heard of Rick Kirschner. They've never heard of Comfort Dental. Who's Rick Kirschner, and what does Comfort Dental mean to you?
Yeah. So you're nailing it on the head. I'll preface that question by saying this. When we do these scratch starts, so I left a thriving practice in Pueblo, Colorado, and I came to a practice that had 0 patients. All it had was a Comfort Dental name in a market where Comfort Dental wasn't as strong as it was in Colorado, where they are strongest for sure.
That's where they started. That's headquarters.
Yes, exactly right. But I had the highest level of confidence in where I chose to put these practices, and I was involved in choosing the locations, and I chose the busiest street corners I could possibly find real estate for, because I didn't care how many dentists were around me. And the reason I don't care how many dentists are around me is because it's so easy for us to beat our competition, because most dentists don't market. Most dentists charge a lot more money than we do. And most dentists believe there's an ideal patient. And that's a very different mentality. There's patients you want and there's patients you don't want. And so the reason I had that confidence is because of Rick Kushner and Comfort Dental. And the ideas, nobody understands what patients want better than Rick Kushner. He has that dialed in and bases the whole business model around solving patients' problems. They care about pain, they care about money, they care about time, and just we cater to literally everybody. I think there's too much in our business. You have 80% of the dentists going after 20% of the market, leaving a whole swath of America, underserved. And so the idea is, we can do a crown for cheaper. We can do a filling for cheaper. We can pull a tooth for $100, and we can do very well doing that and serving a population where there is no end in sight for the needs. So Comfort Dental, what it means, what Rick's policies and not policies, but that's not the right word, but his philosophies, they've allowed me to have just tremendous confidence in plopping my business where I get the most traffic, not even worried about the 10 dentists within 15 miles or within a 10 mile radius, or however many there are. We're a little oversaturated where we are too, but quickly we become super successsul. Both my practices in Vancouver, Washington, were making money on month 2.
Okay, so you first, so you're saying that location doesn't matter and demographics don't matter because most dentists don't market and they're chasing the upper 20% of the patients.
It seems like many of them are. When you're charging $1,200 for a crown, it's just a fact that there's a lot of people who are not going to plop $1,200 into a tooth. They just don't see the value.
Well, dentists, they only, when they make $185,000 a year, they think in chunks of like, oh, that'll cost $1,000 or that watch will be $5,000. They don't realize that their patients think in dollar units while they think in $1,000 millennium chunks. So do you own the real estate under all your locations?
No, I lease.
Okay. Now do you lease from Rick? Did he buy the real estate?
No, I know he's done that in some other places, but in Washington, it's a little more far removed, and so he isn't as involved in the real estate here. But no, that was up to me. I kind of came into this area and was given kind of a little bit of freedom to negotiate leases and execute those contracts and take care of all the contracting and building of the practices, which was kind of a fun experience to understand that aspect of building a practice. And so that was kind of my role in this Washington practice, was to create everything.
Just to detour a little bit, Rick Kushner, the first decade or two that I knew him, was really, Comfort Dental was 2 businesses. It was a dental office, the Comfort Dental, but it's really a real estate business model. What Ray Kroc did in McDonald's, he would go into a town, he'd buy the best location on the corner of First Street in Maine, and let's say that cost $500,000. Then he'd build his box, his restaurant, and the real estate and all that be like another $500,000. Then he finds this young, hungry a guy named Brady Smith who's married and has 4 kids, and the franchise fee would be the exact fee that Ray spent developing this McDonald's. So to sell the franchise fee, Brady, it cost $1 million. So as soon as you gave Ray Kroc $1 million, his real estate was paid off, and then he'd sign you to a 10-year lease to lease his deal. Which was all in plus a little bit of the business. So he'd charge you a 14% of the every dollar that came in covered your building, lease, marketing, headquarters, everything. And
Sure.
basically every first of the month, McDonald's has 40,000 franchisees sending them a rent check. And so it's hard to say that McDonald's is into the hamburger business. And so, my gosh, that's another reason why you should own your land and building, because the only variable in real estate is when it's empty. You don't have a tenant. So you sell your dental business, say for $1, but you sign them to a 10-year lease because you own the land and building. Now you get another $1. And after 10 years, that dentist has paid off his student loans. He's paid everything off. And now he wants to own the land and building. So you sell him that again for $1. So you end up getting $3 while everyone else retired on $1. But that's the Ray Kroc business model that Rick has done several hundred times. I think he has 300 locations, and he's done that with about 200 of them. So we talked that. So now you open your office, and what again? Go back to this dental kindergartner. Specifically, how are you different? What is the Comfort Dental franchise model?
Yeah. So one thing is we always open with partners, never solo docs. So there's always 2 of us, which is extremely helpful. It helps us to have longer hours. We're open 66 hours a week. So we're open Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 7:30. We're open Saturday, 7:30 to 1:30.
Okay, say it again. Monday to what are your hours? Monday to what?
Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 7:30. 12 hours every day of the week.
Okay.
And then Saturday is a half day. So 7:30 a.m. we close at 1:30. And that's pretty standard across all Comfort Dentals. And gosh, that one thing.
Okay, so Monday to Friday, 7:30, 7:30. What would you say Saturday was? 7:30 to 1?
To 1:30, 6 hours.
Okay. And
So
go ahead.
it's a total of 66 hours. And that one thing, just having extended hours, oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many evenings and Saturdays I've been working. And I get so many opportunities to take patients from other doctors. Not that I want to, but I'm there and the other doctor's not. So if they have a good experience with me, they stick with me because I'm available when they need me. So that's a huge deal.
So you're open 66 hours a week. That's why you want partners. And I think what's really neat about Rick Kirshner is he never wanted an associate. If you don't have skin in the game, he doesn't want you. So the average dental office, there's 168 hours in a week, and the average dental office open is 32 hours a week, which is about 19%. So 66 divided by 168 is 40%. So the average dentist is open 18% of the week, and you're open 39% of the week. And is that a big deal?
Yeah, my rent is the same, regardless of my business hours, right? There's some stable costs that don't change regardless of how many hours you're open. So now I personally only work 30 to 36 hours a week, and my partner does the same. So I don't work 66 hours a week, and neither does my partner. We split that share. But yeah, that's a huge deal too. And then of course the idea is there's no ideal patient. I want everybody. I don't care. It's a big picture that's involved, which is very difficult for a lot of dentists to see, I think. I accept state insurance, which has horrible reimbursement rates. But, so I'll do a extraction that sometimes I get paid $38 to do. And I do that because that person might need an implant someday. That person won't have state insurance for their whole life. That person knows neighbors and friends and family and cousins and aunts and uncles who need dental work. And I want to be a dentist for everybody because I think the volume, that's where we flourish, is because you got very few dentists going after those demographics.
Yeah, and like I talked to a person the other day, and they really wanted to open up in San Francisco, but they said, oh, they have too many hours. I mean, too many dentists, and there's no room for another dentist. And they got two dental schools. They got U of P and they got UCSF. I said, yeah, let's look at the demographics of San Francisco Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And now let's look at the demographics of San Francisco from 5 p.m. to 6 a.m. and Saturday and Sunday. And then you'll find out that there are no dentists in San Francisco.
Right. That's a great example. Yeah. And I'll tell you this, Comfort Dental is a model where not everyone flourishes, but most do. And that's significant because I think as dentists, we're talking to the kindergarten dentist, the kids in dental school right now. It's important to understand that you're going into a market where if you're going after the boutique practice, it's a lot more difficult. But this model that Comfort Dental pushes or preaches helps more people become successful more predictably. It's that bread and butter dentistry. It's the lean and mean approach that Rick talks about all the time. That approach is an unending line of dentistry going out the door. And there's just a lot of dentists just don't want it. Or they tell themselves they can't serve that people, or they have whatever excuses they have. But we are incredibly successful serving that demographic.
And why do you think that demographic is? I mean, you went to school for 8 years to help people with your hands, to be a surgeon, to get them out of pain. And, it's all about. I mean, it's like a vocation. It's not even an occupation. It's a vocation to help people alleviate their suffering. So how did it go from that to I only want to be lifestyles of the rich and famous in Beverly Hills?
I have a lot of colleagues that are not Comfort Dental dentists. And they've hired gurus and consulting firms that come in. And it seems to me the commonality in what these gurus and consulting firms tell you is they're telling every dentist, hey, you got to raise your prices. You got to raise your prices. And so dentists keep raising prices. They keep on negotiating with insurance companies to raise their prices. They just need more and more and more and more and more. And at some point, you price yourself out of a huge majority of the U.S. population. Your prices are so high that you can't possibly serve everybody, and that's fine. There needs to be some dentists that operate at the higher echelon level and do that expensive boutique type of stuff. But the thing is that the summit of a mountain is only so large and can't accommodate everybody. Not everyone can stand on the summit of the mountain at the same time. So it just gets a little crowded, in my opinion.
It's why I think Aspen is the best of all the DSOs because Bob Fontana goes where the dentists aren't, and he specifically tracks Medicaid. He says none of the dentists want Medicaid, and he said you go to where the rich people are living in Scottsdale. There's a dentist on every corner. And you go where all the people are on Medicaid, there's no dental office. So he goes there, and he has a denture lab guy. In fact, I've lost several patients to them because if I want to reline your denture, you got to leave it with me and pick it up at the end of the day. You go to Aspen, they got the denture lab guy there, and I said, hell, that's where I'd go. I said, I don't reline dentures. I don't have a lab tech. So since he's so focused on go where they ain't. I think they're going to do well. Now, do you see these DSOs as a threat to you? Like Aspen, is that a threat to you? Are they kind of following Rick Kirschner enough? Why does Aspen, does it fear you? I'm not, well, okay, so no, I'm not threatened by any DSOs at all. And one of the reasons I think Comfort Dental might be the only true franchise. You might have more information on this, but all of our franchises are owner operated. There's no employee dentists. And I think the patients get a feel of a very private practice feel, because to me it is private practice. Comfort Dental gets lumped in with DSOs a lot, but the main difference is, number one, office managers don't call the shots. Dentists call the shots. The owner dentists call the shots. We're not dictated treatment. We are not dictated anything clinically. We do everything. We hire and fire our own staff. Everything is super similar to what a solo doc private practice would be like with Comfort Dental. So
I think the customer service that comes from ownership, because like you said, I have skin in the game. An employee doc doesn't have skin in the game. And that, from what I understand, Aspen, you're getting all employee docs. They don't own and operate their own franchises. Is that correct?
Sure. And their number one problem, I'm not making this up. They said it on my podcast. I've podcast interviewed probably 10 or 20 of the largest DSO guys in the world. It's employee turnover. The associate comes, they only stay a year or two. And out here in Phoenix, which has the highest DSO penetration, we're at 18%. And now Arizona just passed a law that we now accept every dental license from all the other 49 states. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, when I got here, there was no fluoride in the water and there were no dental schools. And now there's 2 dental schools, fluoride in the water, and we'll accept your dental license from any state. So this is the absolute ground zero. And while saying that, I continue to say that the final DSO model has not to be invented yet, because right now the owner wants to own it all because he wants to cash it in on Wall Street, and Wall Street wants to own it all. And you're this selfish dentist who wants to own it himself. And Wall Street, how are they going to make money off Brady if Brady wants to own his own damn dental office? They don't want you. They want you to be a working man. Wall Street wants to own your dental office. So how come? I don't think it's going to work. And since I'm so damn old, I already saw the first round of DSOs, like Orthodontic Centers of America. They all imploded. They were all, they all bought these amazing, successful orthodontists by orthodontists who own their practice. And then when he retired, now they hired an associate that just came out of school. And guess what? That young 25-year-old kid that just graduated from ortho school didn't have skin in the game, didn't have 40 years experience, and it did not look pretty. The whole thing collapsed. So is that where, do you think this round of DSOs will do the same? Because they're trading in a guy like you who's hungry, has skin in the game, and married with 4 kids, and they're going to try to compete with you with an employee who's looking and see what time the clock is?
Yeah. I don't think DSOs can afford people like me. I know it sounds like I'm tooting my own horn, but one reason I stay with Comfort Dental, I'll tell you this, my first paycheck, my very first month with Comfort Dental was $37,000. And I had no idea that was even possible. It blew my own expectations out of the water. Dentists' capability for earning is just too high for what DSOs are paying them, and they're only successful to the degree that they can trick dentists into taking lower fees, so that they don't, because maybe they're afraid of the risk of owning your own practice. But I mean, we're talking multiples of 3 and 4 that dentists can out earn what DSOs are paying, and it doesn't make any. It doesn't. That's what I'm not afraid of DSOs. DSOs are literally, I think, if you polled the dentists who work there, it's a stepping stone. They need a year or they need 2 years to figure out what they really want to do. In the meantime, Aspen Dental will pay them a paycheck and they'll take it. Or Western Dental, or in California is a big one. They're all over the place, right? But they don't provide an environment that makes a dentist want to stay. Comfort Dental does, because I've continued to flourish since my first month. And I'm around other dentists who are flourishing. And my CE was my partners, and that was free. I learned just so much just from being around other partners. So yeah, I'm not afraid of the DSOs. I don't think they can afford, once a dentist gets good and they start crunching numbers, they're out of there. They're doing their own thing.
So you have to be a partner. You always want a partner. You have a partner. You're married. A lot of marriages fail. What would you say to someone who says, I want to be my own boss. I don't really want to have a partner. I don't want to get married to a dentist. I only want to marry someone that's sleeps in my bed, not drills in the operatory next to me. What would you say to them? Yeah,
I best of luck. I I would never do a non-partner. I would never be a solo doc. It's just, it's so much easier to have a partner whom you trust and have like-minded thoughts with to go about this journey. I consult with my partner every single day. And it's, if I have a hard patient or something, you know, I have a partner who's my current partner, she's only been in the profession for 3 years. And even though, you know, but she's just so knowledgeable because she does so much dentistry. And it's such a value to me to be around.
And where did you find a partner? Well,
Comfort Dental has a recruiting process that I'm not exactly sure where they get. I think people hear about it. I think word of mouth is the biggest way that Comfort Dental gets people interested. And then if you're interested in Comfort Dental, I think they fly you out now. Back in the day when I joined, I had to fly myself, but they've wised up and they'll fly you out to Denver for a couple days, put you up in a hotel, get you a rental car, take you out to dinner, and they'll tell you all about the organization. Also, I'm available to talk to people too. I mean, if you're interested in a partnership with Comfort Dental in the state of Washington, I'm a good contact for that. But it's they have a lot of places they recruit from. They do some lunch and learns, I think, at some dental schools, and they recruit from there, I think, a little bit. I'm not exactly sure though.
you know, he when he wants to have see me or have me talk to his group or whatever, he sends his private jet down to Scottsdale, flies me all the way into Denver, everything you talked about, and then I say, come on this show and give your pitch. That'll be the easiest reach. And no. And I'm like, his mental block, I don't know what it is. I've had so many Comfort Dental people on the show. But anyway, what I really wish you would do is, this has been going on. If you Google Comfort Dental on Dentaltown, there's there's just thread after thread after thread after thread. I hope this interview, my job is to like this big thread that's up today. Why does Rick Kirshner not like to incorporate an office? And Rick doesn't do. He does Twitter, but he doesn't do other stuff. But I wish you would start a thread of people like you to explain exactly what they're doing, because what you're going to end up doing is taking their brain out for a 10 mile run. I mean, it's undeniable that after 300, how many comforts are there now? Is it 300?
Yeah, I lost count. I think we're in like 12 or 13, 14 states.
Yeah. So you can't say this doesn't work when there's 300 of them in 14 states. I mean, but I don't think my homies, I love them to death. I love their passion. I love everything about them. But when you're dealing with them from the business of dentistry, it can be challenging because they see it through what they want to see.
So I got into podcasting. And when I started listening to dental podcasts, you know, most dental podcasts, I would say that the vast majority of dental podcasts are how to double your production, 3 easy ways to make your clinical life easier. They're very much how to build a successful practice. And it's a lot of similar ideas. So when I started Drilled Podcast, I wanted it to be different. I wanted to be, giving away dentistry as a way to create, which is an idea I stole from Rick Kirshner. I'm doing it a little differently by doing these huge full mouth rehabilitation giveaways, taking one person and changing their life dramatically and trying to recruit other dentists to do the same with me. So when we created Drilled Podcast, we wanted to be a little separate from them. So we still have the dental talks and we have themes and dental conversations, but it's geared a little bit more towards how the patient would understand it. And, I started Drilled Podcast, or I started giving away dental work far before I started Drilled Podcast because I didn't like my job, which is really difficult for a dentist to turn around, do a 180 when they realize they're not happy with what they do. So about 5 or 6 years ago, I just didn't like what I was doing. And I did 3 things that changed the way I practice. One is I stopped doing dentures, because I just don't like them. One is I started to fire staff that I didn't want around instead of giving them second and third chances. That made a big difference. And the third thing was giving away dentistry to people that I discerned were needing it and legitimately couldn't afford it, and it would change their life. So I did that, and it just turned everything around for me. And so bringing it back to the kind of the conversation here, Drilled Podcast is designed to build everybody up. Everyone, I mean, just the idea that giving away things is a way to build your practice is a very unique idea, and one that requires a little bit of risk to try it out. But I believe in it wholeheartedly.
That is, yeah. I stopped doing dentures. That is, you know, I live out here in Phoenix, Arizona, where they got Denture World and Denture Universe, and there's always some 80-year-old lady saying, you know, I could go down to Denture World and get it done for $100. I'm like, ma'am, I'll drive you there myself. I mean, I'd rather be a pole dancer at Chippendales to earn $100 than reline a denture. Fire staff they don't like. I mean, I can't tell you in 30 years how many times I've been at a dental office, and one time the hygienist pulled up, and he said, "Oh my God, there's my hygienist. Let's go to the break room because she's going to come right through that door." And I thought, you're hiding in the break room because someone you give money to come here. I mean, it's like you can't. I mean, you just can't work with people that you don't like or have chemistry with. I mean, it's not right or wrong. It just doesn't work.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. And those two things made a huge difference. But also, you know, the first person that I extended an invitation was a young lady at a Wendy's drive-thru. I'm kind of confessing here. I go to Wendy's way more often than I should because I recognize I was on a first-name basis with this individual that was always working the drive-thru. She had very visible decay on her front teeth. I saw her 2 or 3 times a week, probably. And one day, I gave her my card. I said, "Hey, if you come into my practice, I will fix your teeth. You will not pay $1. I will help you out." Took her about 2 weeks, and eventually I saw her. And she came in, and she was the first person where I really experienced a change in my approach to dentistry, where I was so excited to come to work. I was so excited going home, thinking about these cases, and getting excited about looking around my own little world for the next person that I want to do this for. And ever since then, about every couple of months, I find somebody out in the world or coming through my office, and I give them the whole spiel where you come to me, we're going to take care of your problems for free. And most people take me up on it. A few do not, surprisingly. But I mean, it's just finding the things that change your world mean everything. And finding the things, for some people, it might not be, some people love dentures. Some people hate root canals. So don't do root, I mean, just figure out what you can do to change your environment. But those were the main things that changed my environment, was giving the people the dentistry they need, getting rid of employees that when I say giving them second and third chances, it's really me being afraid to have the conversation of, I'm going to let you go. You're just not a good fit here. And then getting rid of dentures. Here's the thing. Interestingly enough, I don't remember a lot of my patients' names. I remember almost all of my difficult dentures patients' names to this day. They haunted me. And getting rid of them, when I saw them on my schedule for days, I would dread seeing them. And just identifying those things and getting rid of those things in your life makes a huge difference.
Do you know why Wendy's has only uses square patties?
No, I don't know why.
It's because they don't cut any corners. I thought that guy was Dave. You know, my dad was in a Sonic Drive-In, so you know that was one of his leaders. And I thought Dave was a cool guy, but he was the same type of guy. He was trying to bring high quality food to the mass market. That's what Henry Ford did. Henry Ford said, I mean, there was like 86 car companies before Henry Ford, but it was a bunch of guys making one car for a king or a queen. And he said, we're going to make this for the masses. How can my homies help you get out your Drilled podcast message?
Thank you. Yes. Okay. So when we do these big giveaways, you know, I started with Bobby. I've mentioned Bobby a lot. She was our first. I got 15 like 15 like really good nominations that I was thumbing through. So for every one person that I accepted, I had to deny 14. This last round, we are in the process right now. We just gave away 3 more giveaways because I have 2 more dentists that have agreed to help out. And I've paired them with an individual who's in need. So instead of choosing 1 nomination, I was able to choose 3. And we'll do this again in November. Every 6 months, I'm going to be doing another full mouth giveaway via this nomination process. So I need people. I get messages all the time on Instagram and Twitter. Hey, I'm in North Carolina. I need help. Is there any way I can participate as a patient? Or I'm in New Jersey. How can I get? So what I need dentists who are saying, dentists who are open to this message, open to the idea of giving of their time and services, capable and competent of giving services and treating people like they were their mother. And what Drilled Podcast does is we broker that relationship. I have implant companies and a few dental supply companies that have donated free supplies for all of my cases. So we're negotiating those relationships to get free materials donated. Implant Direct is donating all implant supplies that are needed. So a big shout out to them.
Who did that? Who pulled that string in Implants Direct? Was it Gerald? No, but from Implants Direct, was that Jerry Resnick? Did he get involved with that?
No.
Or?
No, it's more of a like a more local level.
Okay.
So because the case is now, I want Drill to become a national thing. If Drill becomes a national thing, I need a staff. I don't have money to pay a staff. I'm a one-man operation right now, so I am looking for donations and possible opportunities to finance a bigger operation that can do more of a national thing and get this word out and do. Ideally, I would be turning away dentists, not turning away patients. That I'd have so many dentists wanting to be involved. I got a dentist in New Jersey. I got a dentist in Atlanta. I got a dentist in Texas. I got a dentist in LA. And having dentists kind of scattering the United States who have said, if you can find someone, I will take care of them. And then getting them set up to take care of this one individual's needs and just changing lives one at a time. But ideally, next go around, I have another 3 dentists who have volunteered already for November, a couple in the Seattle area, a little bit more local to me, but we are slowly going to try to branch out. And then eventually to get this national, we'll need a operating staff to do that. But we have the ability and we're making the right relationships and making the right connections to start something that I think is going to be really special.
Well, I'll tell you what, this podcast is a star. We're posted on Dental Town. It's a star. You want to write up an article for the magazine. It's funny how all the young kids think all the dentists are only on Instagram, but the magazines are still the most, it's the biggest response. That's why there's all those advertisers in there. And what I also like about it is, I got so many people like you that want to always come on during Halloween and talk about their Halloween candy buyback program. I'm like, have you ever talked to a military dentist? They're all a bunch of kids from 17 to 25 with massive decay, horrible eating habits, not really brushing and flossing. Yeah. And you're a dentist with 8 years of college and your best idea is to send them a bunch of candy? What was your next best idea? I'm just curious. What was your second best idea to send the troops? Opiates. I mean, it's like you look at all the disasters going on economically from the Indian reservations in Arizona, and what was their best idea? Oh, let's give them the only license for a casino. Yeah, that's what they need. They need gambling. What should be next? The only place,
which goes hand in hand with alcohol too. Gambling and alcohol are peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah, and so I cringe at the Halloween candy buyback, but it's for our troops, so it's very romantic and patriotic, and you don't want to say anything, so that's why I have to call it Dentistry Uncensored. If you want to, let's do everything to try to get this program out. I think it's so neat.
Yeah, so email me. The easiest way, if you do want to be involved, is email me, Dr. Brady Smith at drilledpodcast@gmail.com. All I need is an area and
okay, say it again, Doctor. What's the email?
The email is drilledpodcast, DRILLED podcast@gmail.com. And tell me where you live. Tell me what you're willing to do. And I will absolutely hook you up. And on my own podcast episodes, once I have a doctor in an area, I advertise that and say, if you live in the New Jersey area, I have a doctor in the New Jersey area. We're going to extend this giveaway to New Jersey because we can. So we haven't done anything further than Seattle at this point because I don't have anybody who has volunteered to do that dental work for me there. You can also follow us on Drilled Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Soon to be LinkedIn. We'll get a LinkedIn account.
Now, Drilled Podcast, just PODCAST. There's no S at the end.
Correct.
Okay.
You got it.
And it's 2 words.
2 words.
Okay. This is.
And you can subscribe. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or Google Play or wherever you get podcasts. It should be available, and support the podcast that way. And yeah,
and upload it on Dentaltown. This whole podcast is because of Trump and Hillary. It was 1 year before the election. I can't believe we're a year away from the next election. And all these dentists started calling me up and saying, dude, I got an hour commute to work and I can't listen to this toxic crap for an hour each way. I hate it. I'm listening to podcasts on elk hunting and cooking and raising kids. And so now the Dentaltown app, which is downloaded by 69,000 dentists, there's probably 30 or 40 dentists uploading their dental podcasts, and they all say it makes their iTunes explode because the dentist found it first on the Dentaltown app, and then they went back and subscribed to it on YouTube or iTunes or whatever. So I put that up there, and then for you kids out there, your elders. They didn't like to network with the value chain. You know, Delta gives them $100,000 a year and they write them nasty letters. The ADA doesn't sell any dental insurance. They give them $1,000 of free money. And so you got to network with your value chain, and the whole dental value chain is on LinkedIn. And I am humbled by the 40,000 dental people working in dentistry that aren't drilling and filling, but making all the stuff that makes us look great, following us on LinkedIn. But if you want to get the dental value chain from manufacturers, insurance, suppliers, you want to get all the people other than the people working in the delivery dentistry, it's on LinkedIn. And it's amazing. Are you rushed for time? You got to go pretty quick. I want to switch back to the comfort model treatment plan.
Sure.
One of the things that Rick is so outspoken about is dentists do new patient cleanings. You know, you call up, I want to get my teeth cleaned. They schedule them with a hygienist. Rick does not want an associate, and that's not. Is it still the 6-step process on a new patient?
Pretty similar.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think a lot has changed since the 80s or 90s. A few things. One thing that blows people's mind is that we don't hire hygienists. Not that we're not allowed to. We certainly can, and there's some comfort dentals that definitely have a hygienist, but you know, we operate under a lean and mean philosophy, and hygienists are expensive, and dentists can do the cleanings, and so I do a lot of my own scalings. A lot of my dental assistants are qualified and legally allowed to do, you know, super gingival polishing. Coronal polishing is a dental assistant responsibility. So we use extended function dental assistants a lot who place fillings for us. So I got, they pack cord, take crown impressions, build temporaries. So we just use what we can use that makes more financial sense. But yeah, the idea, that's definitely turned off a few newbies who have come my way. They have just been taught that I think all the money is in hygiene. And so without a hygiene department, somehow I'm not making that money from hygiene. And that's, I mean, they're kind of blinded by what they've been taught, and they're new, and they have just been taught by maybe one of the other gurus that, you know, you make X% of your paycheck is from hygiene. So if the Comfort Dental doesn't have a hygiene department, that just disappears. When in fact, it's there plus more because I don't pay a hygienist to go do the cleaning. So I make all that money from, I do have a hygiene department. It's just, it's me.
And what is your overhead?
Between 44 and 52%.
Okay, and so here's a reality check, because I know humans believe what they want to believe. But here's the evidence. There's only 3 publicly dental traded stocks today, and none of them are in America. 2 are in Australia, and 1's in Singapore, and none of them have hygienists for the reasons you said, because they have to make profit. And it's episode 850 with the CEO of 1300 Smiles. Episode 841 is Pacific Smiles Group. 373 is Q&M, and they said the same thing. They how can I pay a hygienist $40 an hour to do a cleaning for $60? I mean, they just look at you like, did you take math? And then here's Comfort Dental, same thing. So 3 out of 3 publicly traded, where they have to show their statement of income, their balance sheet, their P&L, don't have hygienists, and you don't have hygienists. And then there's dentists that are on Facebook all day complaining about how tough dentistry is while they're sitting there. And the reason they're sitting there is because they're paying someone $40 to do a $60 cleaning, and you just don't buy into it.
Well, so I've had this conversation with colleagues of mine. Here's an interesting debate that I've had. You'll find this interesting, Howard. We were debating how long it takes to do a quadrant of scaling and root planing. Now, I was talking to a dentist who's been a dentist for 10 years like me. We went to dental school together. We're good friends, so we can banter back and forth. And I said, it takes about 15 minutes to do a quadrant, maybe less, 10 minutes to do one quadrant of scaling and root planing. And he said, no, it takes an hour. And I said, how many quadrants of scaling and root planing have you done since dental school? And he said, 0. And I said, I've done tens of thousands of quadrants of scaling and root planing since dental school. If the patient is numb, I don't have to worry about that. I can finish a quad in less than 10 minutes, no problem. But I get paid by the job, and a hygienist gets paid, in most cases, by the hour. So they're going to fill that hour, and it's funny how hygienists always take the full hour. They rarely finish early because by doing so, they cheapen their own value, and they don't want to do that, obviously. So it's this interesting idea of like a lot of dentists are a little bit confused about how long cleaning should take because they don't actually do it themselves. That's dictated to them by the hygienist who works for them, who gets paid by the hour and has to justify their own existence. And now again, it's not like hygienists are useless. I definitely don't feel that way. They're super useful. But the idea that a deep cleaning 4 quadrants is going to take 2 hours of chair time is insane to me. And that is, the dentists are being deceived. It just doesn't take that long to do that. And I encouraged my buddy who came to me afterward. I said, go spend 5 minutes cleaning one tooth and see how that feels. Time it for 5 minutes. Put the timer on for 5 minutes, because that's what you're saying. Or like, I think it was 3 minutes was what we decided on. Clean a tooth for 3 minutes, one single tooth. Don't leave that tooth. Just clean it constantly for 3 minutes. And tell me if that feels like an eternity. And he texted me the other day and said, and a couple days afterwards, says, "You're right. That feels like an eternity." And I had that tooth cleaned in 1 minute instead of 3. And it was eye-opening for him to go do a couple quads himself and feel like how long it actually takes to do the job.
So, Rick Kirshner is the most notorious thing in my mind is his chart of 4 dentists who make $25,000 paychecks each month. The one with 40% overhead. You said your overhead was what percent to what?
It's right around 50. It's a little below some. I'd say 44 to 52.
Range 44 to 52. So what does that actually mean? So here's 4 dentists that make $25,000 a month in a paycheck. At 40% overhead, you had to only do $41,000 of dentistry. At 50% overhead, obviously you had to do 50,000, make 25. But at 65% overhead, which is the national average, you have to do $71,000 worth of dentistry, and that alone is the whole hygiene department, the whole hygienist. And since about 20% of practices are at 80% overhead, they have to do $125,000 of dentistry to net $25,000. So what is the secret? I mean, what percent of the dentists listening to you right now have 50% overhead?
Well, I have, Comfort Dental is very transparent. I have access to all the numbers of all the offices. They report their numbers on an Excel spreadsheet that through our business emails, and I have access to that. Most Comfort Dentals operate at around 50%, with very few exceptions. I always hear these numbers. What did you say the average overhead was? What was the figure you threw out there?
The ADA, so for a statistically significant sample and how you pick your sample size and done by PhDs, the national average is 65%.
Okay. And I've heard that it's not uncommon to find practices with 65%, 75%, even some cases higher overhead. But that's killer. Overhead to me is the number one most important statistic. I don't care what your collection numbers are. I don't care what your production numbers are. If I'm evaluating a practice I want to be a part of, if I'm selling a practice to someone and I want them to be a part of it, the overhead numbers are what I'm selling. It's that you don't have to work as hard to make as much with me. You got to work harder to make the same amount of money somewhere else if their overhead is 75%, 65%, or whatever 65% is. But that extra 10%, 15%, it is a killer to watch that money leave your practice and not go in your pocket. And it's such a blessing when you figure out a formula that works well that allows you to pocket more of the money.
What is the driver? Why do you think Comfort Dental averages 50% overhead in over 300 locations and the average dentist is 65? Where's that extra 15% coming from?
Extended hours, multiple partners. A lot of people will think, I talked to a lot of people that they say, oh, well, you guys get like tremendous discounts on supplies. We are a larger company and we do get a little bit of a discount on supplies from Henry Schein exclusively, I believe. I don't think we use Patterson or any other company, but we do get a little bit of a discount. It's not a lot, but extended hours is huge. Multiple docs is huge. And then, lower fee dentistry keeps our chairs full all the time. When there's never any shortage of dentistry to do, which puts me in a position when I'm discussing crowns and root canals and implants and all bridges or fillings or with patients. We have a very nice, cordial, and civil discussion. And if they're not going to pull the trigger, I thank them kindly and move on because I got 3 people in the chair waiting for me who are going to pull the trigger.
So do you think the best marketing, I mean, if you ask an economist, well, how do you sell anything? They say, well, if you raise the price, it'll have an elastic effect on demand. And when you sell a Mercedes-Benz, you're only going to sell one. But as you lower the price has an elastic effect on demand and you'll sell more cars. That's why Ford sells 1 million Ford Escorts and only a few, Cadillacs. So do you think low-fee dentistry is the best marketing?
I mean, if you believe that there's an ideal patient, then you're probably not going to buy into that idea. If you think there's a patient I want and there's a patient I don't want. But I'm perfectly capable of doing boutique dentistry. I can do veneers. I can do cosmetic work on people. And I can do $100 extraction for someone who doesn't want to pay the money for a root canal. And I can treat both those patients with respect. I can make them both happy. I can make them both feel comfortable in my office without judgment. You just got to have the mentality that I want everybody to be my patient. That's a mentality I can't teach someone if what I do or how to do what I do, if they believe there's a certain type of person I don't want in my office because of their insurance or because of their socioeconomic position. That you got to shred yourself of that idea. And I think you can be successful. And then yes, lower fee dentistry. I mean,
and just go through the logistics. Then, if it's all based on a 6-hour shift, like your Saturday shift, 7:30, 1:30. So you basically have 2 shifts. A shift does 7:30 to 1:30, and then a different dentist and shift does the 1:30 to 7:30. Are they two different total sets of people? Does the AM team leave and the PM team shows up?
Well, the staff doesn't change typically. Well, sometimes they do. So the dentist changes. Yeah, the dentist changes. Some of the staff choose to do 12-hour shifts. Some of our worker bees love it because they do 12 hours. They get their hours in 3 days, and then they have a 4-day weekend, and they really like that. So yeah, we have to have staff that covers everything. But for the most part, my particular practice, all of my staff does 12-hour shifts. So they don't change at 1:30, but the doctor does.
And we're out of time. I mean, we went way over, but is it still the 6-step process? And can you name those steps, the Comfort Dental flow?
I don't know. I don't know what 6 steps you're referring
Well,
to.
he used to always talk about, the typical dental office, they call up, they say, I want my teeth cleaned, they schedule an hour with the hygienist, and at the very end, the dentist goes in for, 5 minutes and tries to do a new patient exam, where Rick said, no, I want to meet you first out of the operatory and
we definitely do that.
You meet the dentist first. So you do that. You meet the new patient.
So if I walk you through our patient flow,
Let's do that. Let's go through
first of all, from the phone call, a new patient is offered a same day or next day visit. Like, that is gospel. You do that. You get them in. You don't give them the opportunity to go somewhere else. You get them in right when they want to get in, especially if it's an emergency, if they're hurting or not feeling well. Once they get there, the first thing, they fill out some paperwork. They come into a little room, and I meet them for a 3-minute conversation about what they're doing there, find out the chief concern, talk to them about what their goals are, what they want to do, why they're there, how I can help them. So I ascertain the primary reason they're there. I try to do my best to listen. Then
do you do that in an operatory, or do you do that in a private office?
In a private consultation room. A little small room.
So when the patient shows up, the first thing they're going to do is be taken into that consultation room and meet the doctor.
Exactly.
And that is you just saw an earthquake. I mean, forget about this hurricane in Florida. I mean, this should have just knocked you out of your chair. You cannot not do that. So the patient meets you in the new patient consultation room. Yeah,
and patients get weirded out in a good way, because they're like, I have never had a doctor come talk to me from the beginning. But some people need a PA because they're in pain and it's acute pain. We're going to take one PA. Some people need a full mouth series of x-rays. So the next step after that is for me to determine what's needed. I put them in an operatory with an assistant who greets them, introduces themselves, takes a full mouth series of x-rays. I disappear for that 10 minutes. I come back in. We do a full exam with the x-rays, and we determine the needs, create a plan. Usually not doing a cleaning in the same day, but if it's important to the patient, I try to listen to that and try to accommodate what they want. And then we get a plan, talk about finances. Doctor talks about finances. I don't delegate that to anybody. I talk about finances myself.
And oh my God, it's just it's amazing. You don't do new patient cleanings. So what would you tell someone who has high overhead? What would you tell them to do?
Get a lower overhead. It depends on what systems they're using, what they're trying to do. Well, I'll tell you what, one of my practices here that I don't practice in anymore had a little bit of a higher overhead. And we had to go in there and make a determination that we had to cut back some staff and go back to some basics and start with a little bit of a lighter schedule and kind of, sometimes you gotta start from scratch a little bit, for lack of a better phrase, I suppose, and just figure out what's costing you. I mean, hopefully people do inventory of their own practice. They know a dentist should know, what are you paying for supplies? How much is your overhead every 2 weeks, or your payroll? These are numbers that if a dentist doesn't know them off the top of their head, who else is going to know that information?
I know my boys are so aware that, they are all, they're all old. They're all 24 to 30. My gosh, I would call, we go to a restaurant, I'd call the manager over and tell him that my dad had a restaurant, I'm a dentist, and all that stuff. But then I just ask him, what are your numbers? And when they didn't know their numbers, I tell my boys, okay, they're in the restaurant business. It's a 20 to 40% failure rate. And this guy won't even be open. And in the 32 years my dental office has been open, only 3 restaurants were there when I started and still there, and they all know all their numbers. Final question. You say the threat to our profession from is from the government or any programs that pay dentists by encounter.
Mm.
Well, what do you mean by that?
Oh, this is a whole nother podcast, Howard. This is my soapbox. This is the only place that I will actively throw under the bus in a dental clinic are the government-run clinics in the state of Washington and Oregon. They're called federally qualified health centers. And they do medical services as well, which I don't know a whole lot about, but their dental services are paid by encounter. Meaning, and I know what the numbers are because I did a lot of research on this and got talking to the CFO of the Medicaid program in the state of Washington, who revealed all these numbers to me. State of Washington, if you go to a federally qualified health center, there's, I don't know, 35 of them in the state of Washington in different areas. They get paid $225 every time they see an individual, regardless of what they do to that individual. So Howard, if you
How
need
much money?
$225.
Okay.
And that was in 2016 when I was doing this research and I was heavily.
For every time a patient sees a dental office in a federally qualified health services in the state of Washington, every time a patient goes in there, the place just gets $225.
Yes. So if they take a full set of x-rays, one x-ray, if they do an exam, if they do a cleaning, it doesn't matter. It's not itemized. They get paid $225 for that encounter. Once the encounter is over, they schedule another visit, and that next encounter is also going to get paid out $225. So if you need 12 cavities, Howard, and you go to a federally qualified health center, how many visits do you think it's going to take you to get 12 cavities done?
At least 12.
Yeah, the answer is 12. So these places have the worst reviews online, but have the longest wait times. It's 3 months to get in, because their wait times are insane. And how is that possible if there's such a terrible, nobody likes them, but they feel corralled. And I believe that government entities are trying to funnel, I don't want to sound too much like a crazy, kooky conspiracy theorist, but the reimbursement rates are so low that they must know private practice dentists are not going to accept those rates. I am a exception to that rule. I refuse to not accept state insurance. I feel compelled to offer my services to everybody. So I limit the amount of state that I see. I don't, with these lower insurance reimbursement rates, I cannot open the floodgates. Cannot do that. I have to see on a limited basis. So I have like 2 columns of state patients a day that I see. But these encounter programs will make on 12 fillings, they're going to clean up. They're going to make $2,700 on 12 fillings. 12 fillings, I get that done in 2 visits, and I get paid $400, $500 to get that done. But I do it in 2 visits. So it's incentivizing neglect, and that is why, on a government level, and there's dentists that are doing this knowingly, and they know the program and what it's all about, and that is, it's wrong to me, and I think it needs to be shouted from the rooftops.
Well, why don't you write that up for Dentaltown, or how would we go about this? Who's the guy?
I'd be happy to have any kind of platform to talk about this. Listen, it's the government who makes these clinics, who pays themselves exorbitant fees that they reap the benefits from. So it's the government paying the government to get fat and rich. And some of these managers who have got to know someone who's a cousin to the governor of the state of Washington, these federally qualified health centers, their managers, the people who operate this, are making $600,000 to $800,000 a year as government employees. It is a racket that is going under the radar. That it's just obscene to the dental profession to allow these kind of programs to exist that incentivize neglect. That's what they do. They incentivize neglect.
Well, we have to do this because the new generation, they think that free enterprise is basically evil, and who's going to save them is the federal government. And, and it just comes down to simple decision making. If you're, when I was growing up, Moscow made all the farming decisions for their farmers, and they had, a $2 trillion economy. and they had to import wheat. And America said, well, you're the damn farmer, you make the decision. And
Right.
and so we had a $6 trillion economy, and we were a wheat exporter. It's the same thing we're talking about, where when you're a dentist associate and the CEO is calling the business model in another city, another country, another state, you have the DSO model. And when you have owner-operators, you have the comfort dental model. And there's no one in economics who doesn't want the person standing in the environment where all the data is to not make the decision. And
Perfect.
big government, big association, people with no real world experience think, oh no, it's like when your state has to call the Department of Education to figure out what book to have 6-year-olds read in the first grade. Really? If there's no one in your state that can pick a book for a first grader to read, well, maybe you guys should all just move to another state. I mean, it's
you're preaching to the choir here, Howard. It's just there's no evidence of a model that works. I mean, this government type of models are just they're just terrible, and they're just so inefficient, and nobody wants to make decisions because no one wants to take risks. Nobody wants to be responsible or held accountable for these types of programs, and so you can't hold anyone accountable. The state of Washington cannot audit federally qualified health centers. They don't know how much dentistry is being done for the $175 million the state spends every year on this dentistry, because all they can report is how many encounters they've got. You don't know how much dentistry is being done. You can't report that. It's unreportable.
And it's genius. I mean, what they did is they made it so there's no transparency, so they don't have to be accountable.
Right.
That's amazing. Will you write that up, and I will put it out. I will publish it.
I appreciate that. I will.
Yeah.
I'll get you a write up. I'll get you a write up for sure. I appreciate the platform.
Okay, and last but not least, what can my homies do to help get out the Drilled podcast? Just send you an email to
subscribe to the podcast, support it that way, and then email me at drilledpodcast@gmail.com and let me know the level of involvement that you'd like to have.
All right. Well, Brady, thank you for everything you're doing for dentistry. I'm a big fan of you. Thank you so much. It was an honor to podcast you today.
Right back at you. Can't thank you enough for the platform that you're providing me, and hopefully this is contagious and get some more people fired up to do some good out there.
All right, buddy. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.